Yet, nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave.
Hello, my wonderful CGL friends and people. Welcome to another broadcast that we have going on. It's already week 2 of the regular season. I can barely believe it, and believe it or not, I'm so sad I got to miss out on week 1. I'm very sad, but week 2 is here. Tiny Shiny is back, joined by Fishnot to bring back our EU Open Tier matchup. So, highest level of competition here. Week 2 heading up. These teams already had that first match on the books. Can't wait to see what we have ahead today.
Yeah, same, Tiny. I can't wait. These are two very good teams, especially, obviously, the team already won 0 up in the season, Air Fryer Mariana Trench. I'm excited to see what they cook up today after their week 1 victory.
Yeah, you always having that momentum behind you leads pretty far ahead into the fight. But of course, you know, it's not just about all of those things. It's about those players who are on the team actually going to those victories. So we're going to take a peek at those rosters, starting out with AFMT. Now, they were very nice. They shortened this up for us. But in actuality, their name is Air Fryer Mariana Trench. Wow, that is a mouthful. I'll likely be sticking to AFMT because you're just asking me to go full-on Rap God mode, which is not practical at this point in the day. So, AFMT coming out here to ya. Their primary 5 heroes, stuck on Overwatch 1. Is this primarily the composition that they like to lean towards? A lot more of this rush with that Ramatra, which particular maps in our pool are going to lean towards that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that yesterday I did a game on this map pool, and we saw that Rush was actually very strong on a few maps. The team that you would say was traditionally worse in the series definitely managed to pull back the series of playing Rush. Rush is often a great equalizer in games like this, so it'll be very interesting to see.
And of course, it's EU after all. You're known for your Rush composition, so AFMT, lots to look out for coming in to these first couple maps, particularly that control. But let's see who's going to be meeting them on the battlefield. We've got Paladines Eternos, the Spanish team, coming in. Also, like to play a little bit more of this up-in-your-face style, but with some tweaks. We see a lot more poke coming in. Lazy picking up the Orisa as their favorite and most played hero, which tells us quite a bit. Orisa's been making a very strong appearance within the recent meta after that patch has come in lately, so she's very difficult to deal with, especially in the right hands. And when you look at the level of this competition being open tier, I have high expectations for Lazy to perform.
Yeah, I agree. Especially, it would also be interesting to see if Sombra is played much. There's been different contrasting opinions maybe on whether Sombra is alive or dead in the current meta. We saw some of her last night, but it'd be interesting to see if we see any of her today as well.
I have to keep an eye out for those various compositions. I mean, of course, that is going to depend heavily on those map pools as well. They are set for regular season weeks coming out here, of course, starting on good old classic Lijiang Tower, a favorite amongst a lot of teams, just because you can run a lot of these brawl variants, switch it up to a dive. There's a lot of options when it comes to the map of Lijiang Tower, and I don't think either of these squads are going to struggle on this opener.
Yeah, definitely. If both teams like to play Rush, that'll be just like home for them. Lijiang Tower, known for its Rush, traditionally through the whole of Overwatch 1 and 2, it will definitely be a strong map for both teams.
Certainly will, and I mean, of course, gotta change the pace up a little bit. You got new Bonnie throwing the pool, often the oddball of the hybrid map, so it's gonna be good to see that one making a return to the stream. Shambhali's Monastery for number 3, and if we end up getting there, new Queen Street will be number 4, and that's all we're gonna see for now. If we end up going towards map 5, then we'll talk about Nepal a little bit more, but we'll have to wait and see whether that happens down the line. Of course, Lijiang Tower is where that is going to be kicking off. And, you know, we got to see a little bit more. AFMT, they prefer to run this Ramatra style where you're looking at the other side, Paladines Eterno. They left that Orisa getting this poke damage in with that Soldier 76, having the Tracer in the backline. They're two very different styles in terms of the way that the compositions play, but at the same time, they can play at a variety of ranges here. When you look at those mini-maps of Lijiang Tower here, Fishnot, do you think there's one in particular that might favor what AFMT is wanting to play, or vice versa?
Obviously, Control Center, the indoor one, will definitely favor the Rush. Traditionally, even on metas where Rush has been kind of really hard to difficult to play, that's still been a map that's Rush played. And even for stuff like Junkrat played on that map. Symmetra has been pretty much hard meta on the map for a lot of Overwatch. But also the other inside one, where the players often TP on Symmetra, is also very good for Rush. However, it is more possible to play other comps on there. So I'd say that one is fairly equal. And I'd say that the final map, the mostly outside one, is fairly equal as well on these two, considering the topography.
Yeah, Gardens and Night Market tend to lean one way or the other, but like you mentioned, it's really going to come down to that Control Center there, right? Whoever is going to start off on the right foot on Control Center is going to set the tone for the later maps. But hey, we never actually know which mini map is going to be selected first. So really, it's up to the Overwatch gods to tell us where we will be going to kick us off on Lijiang Tower as we're getting ready to head in here. And I don't think there's going to be one particularly that's going to make a decision other than kind of the oddball here of Gardens, which, of course, I'm getting a little hint. I have a feeling that's where we're going to be starting out on here. Gardens, you have a lot of options of which direction you'd like to go. A lot of eyes on these environmental plays. We see Lucio's. We see, of course, the Orisa as well. I want to see somebody get pushed off the map. Please give me that content. It is fun, all right? It is fun. I bet that, you know what? I'm placing the bets now. I think we're going to see 3 environmentals on the map of Lijiang Tower. Where do you think of Fishnot?
I think 4.
4!
I think all
Wow.
Lucio. All Lucio.
All Lucio, too. Okay, so you have 4 all Lucio. I'm going for 3 overall. Okay, all right. We'll have to see how this ends up shaking out, though. I feel like 4 is a little overzealous, honestly. And just the Lucio, too. Hey, you know what? Maybe you know something I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think 3 will come in one go off this spawn. Watch this now.
Watch. Okay, let's see. We got of course, the classic teleporter off of the spawn. But he's really going to... Actually, no. Paladins are going to go ahead, stick with it. AFMT going to just go ahead, get that Dominus sorted towards point. So here's the tricky part. Paladins, they didn't use that teleporter to get onto the objective. They're not going to get there first. So Suleiman will not have that opportunity to particularly get set up the way you would love to with the Symmetra. So going to have to opt for these turrets wrapping around the back, overwhelming AFMT, forcing them apart. This health bar is remaining rather up, but the longer this goes on, that Moro healing is going to wear out. So the target prioritization needs to be on point, and AFMT find a great opening pick. No DPS players, the Symmetra being down, lack of stability for that oncoming team, and AFMT, they got there first, they did it better.
Yeah, the choice not to TP on Symmetra probably lost them the fight, really, because they just lose the control, and with this, they should have been able to set the Symmetra turrets if they TP'd themselves there, but they end up not, and the Tracer has to flank and ends up dying, and that really loses them any momentum they had coming into the fight.
They don't have a lot of this utility. Garden's notoriously difficult to be able to reinsert yourself back on. Lazy has to physically force their way onto the objective to even have a chance here. Already nearing that Terra Surge, but with AFMT, they got this Coalescence up. Ken choosing now to pop that one out. The extra health is going to be huge for powering on forwards, but they lose Rosa. They cannot allow Paladins to get onto this point. Otherwise, they're going to be in a whole heap of trouble, but going around to the back, Paladins, they split up. I'm not a big fan of that play here because now they're even weaker in the front line. They had the opportunity to push up, but they're losing it. You have to commit the sound barrier just as an attempt to break through, but all the ultimates in the world are available for AFMT to counter it out, and it all just ends up going to waste for the red team.
Yeah, they're quite lucky in the end, actually, that the Blizzard is used because they waste the beat, which should have probably been safe for the Blizzard. So that's probably going to guarantee they don't lose the next fight off Blizzard. But they now have the Orisa ult, which should be very helpful to help them enter. And if they should be able to use this before the Ram ult, they shouldn't wait too long because they'll know it's coming up.
They gotta be expecting that here, obviously. And I mean, Paladins, they gotta go in now or never. This is gonna be the highest invested fight they're gonna get for the whole game. No more support ultimates, but everything else at their disposal. They need to force their way in, but AFMT still have that sound barrier behind them. The extra damage coming in as well. Look at all of that layered on. Lazy did not stand a chance whatsoever. Jot coming in, doing their best to turn the tides here. However, Paladins, they're just nowhere near that objective. They lost that first capture, and they're gonna lose the map as a result here. Doesn't appear a touch is gonna be possible unless a teleport comes in. Perhaps Soli gets a touch, but Naywall denying any chances. A quick sweep of Gardens to kick off our series.
Yeah, as soon as they lose the first fight there, it's so tough to get back in on Gardens, but they just don't seem to be able to play as a team and retake the fight as 5. They almost seem to split off, maybe trying to make plays themselves, but that ends up in their death quite frequently. They need this round to get that teleport play right, to get onto the point first, take control. And really, Paladins, I would say, probably have the better comp here. I much prefer the Baptiste to the Moira. And I think that they can definitely exploit having that Baptiste. If they make the fight last longer, they will have more sustain later in the fight. They just need to make sure they don't die to this initial burst.
Getting to that objective and setting up is the name of the game here. Paladins, they couldn't do it this time, but now they have the Symmetra AFMT. All they did just to get out of the spawn. If there's some way they can get to that objective, everything will be just fine for them. At least that's what I'd hope to say. That immortality field going down. Gisan hanging on to a sliver of HP here, barely managing to stay alive, and that is going to be the big part of stabilization here. Now that these turrets are put into place, this push in AFMT, they don't have a lot of heroes. They need to play up close and personal, and you're just not going to do that against all of these turrets, plus the Bastion. Rosa only using this power block is the only thing you can do, and even that is barely enough to keep them alive and manage to get out with their life. Paladins, though, they're not done yet. They're pushing clear on up. Lazy really overexerting themselves. Thankfully, you have your Baptiste to leap over the wall, keep everyone else in AFMT contained, and hopefully dispose of a few players on the way out.
Yeah, it was a great fight. They managed to do exactly what I said. Just hold the fight longer, bring the Moira util into play. And I mean, as soon as Moira runs out of juice, your Baptiste has so much more healing, and they successfully managed to hold on long enough. If they do this again, I mean, they're already engaging here.
Yeah, and AFMT, they're very good at these aggressive pushes. Like, look at this Coalescence, just pushing Rosa on through, but you just can't do that through an Ant Matrix and a Bastion sitting behind it. Rosa, you just can't. You really don't have the ability to sustain through that damage, and this is really making me start to think here. Paladins, now that they're in control, how do AFMT switch things up to retake?
Yeah, AFMT don't look anywhere near as good retaking the objective as they do holding it, although I'm not sure any team does. They do have ults here, though, and especially that Remarch they're coming up to on will be absolutely crucial.
And they're going to have to get in, though. That Blizzard goes a little bit far out, but still manages to catch Jeep. The sound barrier is down. Immortality field even better. Gisan has been having a huge map on Lijiang Tower to keep Paladins in this fight, but Jot finally getting a final blow in this battle, and that is a great opening pick that AFMT needed to get onto this objective, and they're going to have a couple more to partner it up with, gaining that flip back with 73% on the other side.
Yeah, but Tiny, so many ult shoes. Did they really need the Death Blossom in the end? I mean, they already had a pick up when they used the Remarch as well. I mean, it put them in a position where if they lose this next fight, the Orisa, they are struggling, but they do still have the beat. It's got to be huge from JR here.
It is. And it's really all on that sound barrier right now. Paladins, they have a little bit to work with, but they don't have Deep. How did that even happen? How far ahead did Deep have to be in order to go down to Rosa like that? I mean, the ults are still going to be committed into this battle, but it's literally a losing one for Paladins right now, unless something big, some sort of miracle manages to happen, but that's just simply not going to be the case. I'm not sure what happened to Deep there, but it cannot be happening again.
Yeah, not sure what happened, but the beat was used that fight as well, obviously in response to the Visceral, which actually probably means that the death of Deep actually hasn't necessarily done them that much of a detriment, because now they can fight without the beat. They only really need one more fight to win, especially coming up on the, coming up with their window and their wall, they can definitely try and fight.
But Deep goes down again. I mean, Deep is in front of the tank at this point, and it's losing them so much momentum here. The Paladins, they can't push in with that photon barrier. They don't have the mobility or the speed. Nissan's doing the best to keep everybody up and healthy, but that's just simply an impossible task to do with all 5 players focusing them down, and suddenly AFMT, who started off on the back foot, are coming close to closing out their second map.
Yeah, just look at how good AFMT, when they get the point, are. They see why they won their week 1 map. They are. You can't TP there, lad. They are.
One shot.
They are so good at holding this point. They've got ult now. I don't really see a situation where they lose this, to be honest, Tiny.
No. This is an uphill battle for Paladins for sure, and you know, they gotta make these resources come to the max. I mean, I guess you could use Opaques to clear some of that space in the initial, but with the amount that AFMT have at their disposal here, this is so gosh darn difficult to go through. They don't have Soli even to make the push. Rosa clearing everybody out. The point is being captured. Lazy is there, but no health at all to come in. AFMT is coming back in from behind. 2-0 sweep of Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, on the face of it, maybe quite a one-sided map, but there's definitely signs of life. Paladins, they held the point for a long time on the night market, and they looked in control until they lost it with a couple of mistakes, and they never really got a chance to retake it. Some maybe team play errors or individual errors led to them kind of always being one player down, and some ults that weren't used correctly. There's definitely signs of life 100% in this series for Paladins. I mean, it's definitely not over, for sure.
Oh, not at all. It's only the first of at least 3 maps to come here. So, Paladines Eternal, I think they have some pretty large errors that they're on the obvious side. So I'm hoping that they can take this time between the maps to see, like, okay, how are we playing as a team? We need to be staying together. Our tank needs to be the one leading that charge in. That's kind of the strength that AFMT has, right? Is that they have the ability to manage that ultimate economy. They have the discipline to stay in a specific order, allow Rosa to go in first with the trust that the supports are going to keep them alive. And as a result, they're able to take back these points, which Lijiang Tower, that is a very difficult thing to do on both Night Market and on Gardens. And we mentioned that was going to be a large piece of kind of the tempo that this series takes, right? Is how are these teams actually effectively using that space when they're playing this brawl comp? Who is in the driver's seat? Who is going to control that aggression? And at that point, it was AFMT. They had the better grip on what they were doing, how all 5 players should interact, and I think that that's going to play them really well forwards into this next map, assuming their opponents don't really start to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, definitely. But I think one of the big things you mentioned actually is discipline. I think that maybe Deep especially lacked a little bit of discipline going too early. Although you could also say that with Lucio players, Lucio player expects their team to follow them in. Yep. So maybe it's a team player com error. But I think if they can fix that, they can definitely win rounds. Win map, even maybe win the series.
Oh yeah, it's very soon to call anything at this point. I mean, AFMT looked very strong on the one composition that they did play. And, you know, we look ahead to our next map of Numbani, of course. That is incredibly different from how any control map is actually played on. So you look at Numbani, right? And you see that there's all of these various high grounds. There's these long pathways once you get through the points. This is the one map where the defenders have the spawn advantage on that first objective here. So it's very difficult to be able to go through and take Numbani, often not played for that exact reason. So what I'm thinking here is, if you look at AFMT, they're able to play this composition. They know these rotations, how they're supposed to be taken as a cohesive unit. can they do that again here on a map that has a lot more options? You're going to be at a disadvantage when you're taking these fights, particularly on that attack. And it's going to be a huge mental game here about where these players are positioned and what direction they opt in going. And I'm honestly not even going to be surprised if we see switches in the composition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we will probably see Winston on this map, and I think, they completely change up the entire series when we move to Winston comps. It'd be interesting to see how this series maps out after this, because even if you're, not better on Rush, if you win this map on Winston, it can give you the momentum and the confidence. You just fix some of those little team play errors that you lost on Rush. So it's definitely possible that winning this map, not on the comp that the rest of the series will be played on, will help you in the rest. But also, you just see Sombra is played here. If the teams have a very good Sombra player, they probably will choose to play Sombra. And especially the tank is maybe more of a Winston player. They might even choose to play D.Va here. D.Va better now in this new patch than she was. It'll be very interesting to see what it plays.
There's a lot of options to go through. Rosa does like to play the D.Va as well, and accessing this high grounds, particularly on that capture point you're playing on, that's kind of can be the key to your success here, right? You cannot allow one of these DPS players, if they set up on an Ashe or a Soldier 76, they just can't sit there. You can't let them sit there and just rain down fire on your team. That's not going to be a successful way to approach. Numbani attack is all about this team cohesion. I hate getting this map whenever I play solo queue comp for this exact reason. Everyone's walking off in various different directions, trying to attack at so many spots you can hold down on Numbani. So playing in a different game where you're communicating as a 5-stack of players, then this is where I expect to see these plays come through, that these plans can actually be put down into place, because otherwise, if you're going to continue to be all over the place and you just have a couple players who are falling out of line, and this is going to be a very difficult time for the Paladins moving forwards.
Yeah, definitely, but also you could maybe look at it in a different way. For example, if Deep is now on Brig, maybe less chance to overextend on Brig, more just defending Yorana. And that could definitely help them with discipline. If maybe only 3 players are actually attacking the enemy, it can definitely help them stay together. But obviously also you have to be so much more coordinated on the dive comp. Multiple people have to be in the same position at the same time instead of just following your Reinhardt. So you can look at it both ways, but I think that it will also... I think another thing that will throw a difference in this map is the fact that the tanks will have to maybe flex to a hero that they are not comfortable on. Because I think if you've got tanks here who are main tank players, they might want to play Winston. Off-tank players, they might want to play Sigma or D.Va, and the matchup might, make the series a lot different.
I don't really see Ramattra being a practical option here, so Rosa, I am expecting to have some sort of variation towards that. I do know that they are pretty comfortable on that D.Va as well, so a very valid option heading into this. And it just all goes back to that idea that the tanks have a very strong deciding factor on how these compositions are played, as you're the ones that are really leading that charge forwards and give your team that sense of direction here. So I need to be looking at Rosa and, of course, at Lazy too, to be the ones to make those changes towards those various comps. And in fact, it's not even going to be Rosa on tank. We have a swap. Ken moving away from the Moira onto the tank role. An interesting role swap, especially at a high level like this. Oh no.
Surely not the Roadhog.
No. No!
Surely not. What are they cooking up in that air?
Why?
What? This is... Oh,
okay.
no, okay.
Oh! Everything's okay.
Hey.
Everything's fine again.
It's fine. They're on Winston. This is a very good comp.
This is
and
acceptable.
I think it's going to be a fairly mirror. It's just going to be the classic change of Echo and Mercy instead of the Brig and the Sombra. I think this all should be an interesting match, especially with the Echo on attack. We saw yesterday as well, actually, with the Echo on attack. It did actually help. It helped them definitely access the backline easier. Although the EMP is such a big ult in this match. It's almost a guaranteed fight win, so without that, it could be a struggle sometimes to play hard defenses.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we really need to be watching, and Tarny specifically, already see how much of a nuisance that they're being to Lena. Lena got hacked up, and Deep had to full on peel back just to keep them alive here. And very different approaches to how this map is going to be played out. Sully has a lot of pressure on them. Deep is giving them that mercy pocket to be able to get to these high grounds to succeed, but the hack thrown on. Thankfully, Deep is there to keep them nice and covered and healthy. And the only issue I can see with this comp is if Sully doesn't get things done, Lazy, Opakes, and Lena, they don't have the support to survive like we're seeing right now. Lena got hacked up. Deep was flying off in the sky somewhere with Sully. Sully got one to trade it out, but that's not going to be enough. Lazy falling down here and all the pressure added on top of them. Looks like a drawing board is going to have to be returned to.
Yeah, I mean, that fight was so scrappy, but in the end, they just managed to get back on their supports and help them out, and they managed to kill the Mercy and the Echo. It's not awful for Paladins because they definitely could have won that fight if they'd acted a touch quicker. I think in this next fight, you'll see exactly the same thing. I think the Echo will go back on the supports, and if the Echo kills both supports, then you'll definitely be seeing Paladins, hopefully for them taking the fight. But they do switch over to the Diva here, so maybe something slightly different, trying to attack the Winston a little more.
See, this is what I like, though, because not even that, Lazy full-on peeled back for Lena, and that is what Lena needs to be able to survive right now. Like I said, Sully and Deep, they're off doing their own thing. They're trying to get these solo eliminations onto, ideally, those supports. Minnie and Pink are those targets, but if you lose the rest of the team in the process, it simply isn't going to matter. Pakes, though, has to stay alive here under a lot of pressure. Tarnies has spotted them out, but opted to go for a bigger and bigger target in Lazy. That hack up onto the tank forces a lot of resources to be put in their direction. A duplicate now as well from Paladine is going to help take that high ground over and even get Minnie out of the picture. Nice combo play from Opakes there. Deal with the Ana. Now the eyes are turned on the other end. EMP has him placed down. An opening has returned. Supports have fallen. Enk and Tardies working together in perfect sync to keep this one alive for AFMT. And just like that, they're turning a losable fight into a rather winnable one. Like I said, those spawns are closer for the defenders than the attack. So the longer this goes on, the better it is for that defense, especially with Minnie returning a nano boost in hand. Lazy does not stand a chance whatsoever to be able to take this point. A tick and almost a second is what they're going to have to settle for.
Yeah, this fight's going to start almost immediately after because there were so many respawns that just came in, and here they just go in.
They're going straight on in. They see the target within the Winston Nano had to be thrown out just to keep Ken alive, and that's something that's going to get you forwards onto the Ana, but the support pouring in for Lena. Ken got really tunnel visioned onto that player and lost their life as a result. Pink has to stabilize for the rest of their team. That's that rally coming into play, and that do actually manage to get Lazy prior to that remake. Doesn't prevent Deep from getting the resurrection. Also 5 players still alive for Paladins, and Sully making this one a 4 for AFMT. Point has been captured, and wow, Paladins really showed perseverance to come back in with that soft reset and snag that objective away.
Yeah, so just scrappy kind of 2 fights where just so many players were lost on both teams. Almost the entire team killed twice, basically. And they just managed to come back in and they take the fight really well. There's no EMP to defend from AMFT. That was the thing that really clutched them up last time. And I think Paladins have actually looked pretty good in these fights without the EMP online. So, I mean, if they can continue to do this, that's definitely absolutely huge for them. And they will probably take the second point fairly easy if they can take the fight as well.
Yeah, I mean, Tarnies has been farming that EMP, already 91% to another one after just using it about 2 fights ago. I mean, that is really good to be building that up. So now AFMT, they have this win con to go on in with, and if Ank manages to get these eliminations again, following up on that target focus, the defense should come out on top here, and you already see Tardies looking for that opportunity. Spots out the Ana and the Mercy. Those are the targets, and they are just as good as dead. Simultaneously look at those comms come to life right before our eyes. This has been AFMT's strength the entire time. Whenever they're given the opportunity to work together, it spells disaster for Paladines.
Yeah, fantastic EMP execute there. Just the ult use, the Winston Strat on top of them. No chance to do anything, really. Now, this next fight, they've got the copy. The duplicate, I would absolutely not. Sorry, please do not duplicate the Winston again like it's week 1 of Echo. It's 2023. Please just duplicate the enemy DPS. They lost 2 players.
I know they've already gotten hands onto the supports. We saw Lazy, Sully, and Deep all just fly on up there. That's the one issue with running the Winston is you don't have that same level of feel. I mean, Ken did try to get up there, but with the supports being so preoccupied, there wasn't much of a chance for AFMT to make the peel.
Yeah, AMFT are coming up on ult so are Paladins, but obviously AFMT have got that Nano Winston. So huge in this battle, especially if they get straight onto them support. Just no one's pushing the car here. They're just trying to take it like a duel, trying to get their pistol position. I'm not sure the position of AFMT support is going to be good, but they managed to get the stick.
Yeah, and getting that stick on to Lena, a huge opening for AFMT, and they gotta go ahead, roll with this lovely pulse bomb that they've come out to get. And Paladins, they have a Kiriko now, and Lena's gonna be back faster than you think. Opaque's going down. That will be the nail in the coffin for this one, assuming they stay on the payload. Okay, I don't need to see any C9s on my screen today. Thank you very much. AFMT getting that full regroup and managing to hold 30 seconds remaining here. This needs to be a full reset from Paladins in order to have one last shot.
Yeah, Sully copies the Winston again, exactly what I told him not to do. Obviously, he isn't listening. When you get so little HP now on the Winston, I just don't see the point of copying the Winston instead of, copying the enemy Tracer, or even copying the enemy Sombra, trying to get your EMP up. In this fight, I mean, the EMP for AFMT is going to be absolutely massive. I'm not sure Paladins can avoid it. I think this is over. They switched to the Kiriko to try and cleanse it.
This EMP is at 100% success rate so far. They're turning your eyes in the sky as Deep goes down. You can't hit a Suzu with everyone suspended mid-air. Wow, what a play from Tarnies. Give AFMT a fighting chance and continue to put them through. They've been such a carry throughout this map, and getting a stop on second point Nubani. We know this objective practically doesn't exist, but AFMT, they managed to do it just before the cap and set quite the mark for them to approach when they turn the tides into their favor.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's just a great place to stop. It's very hard to defend that second point, so it's going to be hard for them to avoid losing it on this next round. However, I think on the Winston comms, it's maybe not quite as bad as it traditionally was. I think a couple of times, actually, we've seen a stop around here, just because the high ground is so good to sit your supports on. And I think it's quite hard to actually access for the Tracer. The Tracer has to route right round, and you can get shot at from the low ground by, by the enemy DPS or by the supports. They have such a line of sight on you coming across the balcony. It can be difficult to actually access the enemy backline. That's why that point is maybe slightly better for the defenders than it traditionally was, but it's still not a great place to get stopped. No. Because if you lose one fight on that second point, you're really backed against the wall. Not really much you can do after that.
No, and this is why that turnaround, it needs to come now. AFMT, I'm just going to put out flat right. They have shown superior synergy with the way that they're playing. Tarnies in particular has been working with Ankh and Ken so gosh darn well that Paladins, they're just getting run over, and they don't really have a choice to do anything about it. They put all of their resources into Sully to make something happen. That wasn't the case. So seeing them switch off the Echo now, moving solely onto the Tracer, Opaques to the Ashe instead. I like this look slightly better, but I do have, once again, those concerns returning of how well is Opaques, Lena, and Deep going to be able to stay alive with this expectation.
Yeah, Opaque really needs to be able to put pressure on enemy DPS to make this work. I mean, that's just awful.
Ankh is just better. That's what I'm learning today. Yeah. Ankh has been dominating the Tracer 1v1s today, and it's not even to say anything bad to Sully or Opaques here. It is just Ankh being better, coming out with an ace. Wow! Talk about coming out of the gates exploding. AFMT didn't even give Paladins a chance to react before Ankh was just all over them.
Yeah, just so I was talking about Opaques having to pressure the enemy Tracer to make the Ashe work. I mean, Ankh just takes the game into his own hands and kills everyone.
Sheesh.
I just don't see the Ashe working if Ankh is in such good form, and you can't find an angle to really pressure him to not be able to Winston's down to.
No, I mean, Ankh has just been so gosh darn good. Partnered up with Tarnies, I mean, what do you even do against a Tracer of this magnitude? You throw Sully after him to try to do that, but guess what? Sully's hacked up, has to recall early. Deep can't keep them alive with a Bionade. I mean, AFMT is clockwork right now. They are a top-level machine. They know exactly what each player is supposed to be doing, and they are executing it to near perfection. There's no sign of them stopping right now, and Paladins, unless they want to go down to match point, they got to figure something out here and now.
No, they lose the Winston, which could give Paladins a chance to come in quick. They just don't have the respawns, really, to be able to take a fight quick, but it's going to force AFMT to back off a touch. The Brig will try and contest the car as long as possible. With this next fight, it doesn't even matter.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, Ankh, does get punished for that elimination, so it's something for Paladines to work with. Of being a down upper support is much more value, but guess what? AFMT, they're in the same situation, if not even worse. Mini had that nano boost on hand, so a little bit of breathing room, a sigh of relief coming in for Paladines right now, but Ken doesn't want to back off yet. They're staying in this battle. Nano boost even forced out onto Soleiman here. They got to make something happen because AFMT, they have the confidence to continue to pull through, and I would too if you have the Nano and EMP holding in your back pocket. Paladines, they are hurt. They are down and beaten, and finally there's no one left in sight to even halt this payload. AFMT just steamrolled through Nubani attack. If that doesn't tell you which team has the superior synergy, I don't know what does here.
Yeah, Paladins never really accessing the AFMT backline. They never really managed to get on top of them. And I mean, you can see Ank is doing it almost every fight, and that's basically winning the fight before anything like even the team play kicks in or anything really. Or even like the Winston play or the tanks, anything I kind of analyze. Immediately Ank just gets a kill, and it just changes the game. It doesn't matter if maybe your Winston is playing well. I mean, if Ank is accessing your backline and killing someone, and you're not accessing their backline, it's just not going to happen for Paladins.
The speed of which that AFMT is engaging right now to get Ank, to get Ken, to get Tarnies in these aggressive positions it's unmatched. And Paladins, they haven't found the answer to this. They're playing reactive, but even on those reactions, they don't know what to do. They seem clueless, like they're walking around without their heads, and here they are. They're down to match point Fishnot, and they have one more chance to start turning this around back into their favor in our escort selection. But before we get there, we're gonna give them a little bit more time to think, go back to those coaches, come up with a plan to take down AMFT. We'll see you back on the other side of this break.
Got lots of love. 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 Got lots of love.
welcome back to the CGL EU broadcast. The open tier has been a little bit of a mess today. AFMT and Paladins Eternals have shown some great gaps in between them, but also some close contests at times. And, you know, it's really going to come down to ironing out these errors that we're seeing. AFMT up 2-0, heading into our third and potentially final map here. As Paladins, they've been struggling to get a foothold in the series that has been played. AFMT's their team cohesion and their ability to understand positioning has just been on another level, and Paladins, they're struggling to react or even proact in the way that they're playing. So Shambhali's Monastery, of all maps you and I know, Ofishnot, is not that forgiving.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you start to get rolled, I mean, I'm not really sure there's much chance of them coming back if they lose the first couple of fights. However, if they dig themselves in on this first point, there's definitely a chance to maybe even full hold them, and then they can definitely win the map. I mean, Rush is a great equalizer. I think I always say this when I'm casting maps that are maybe a little one-sided. I'd like to see Paladins play Reinhardt here, just to change it up. Run at the enemy team with Ryan, and just see what happens. But it looked like they're going to walk out on the remark, which I'm not too sure, but maybe they will manage to dig in with the Remartra. I mean, if AMFT play this comp, then I think Paladins might be able to. But I don't think they will.
Yeah, I mean, Shambhali's Monastery is Ramatra's playground. This is where you'll see that tank the most out of all places, just because the ability to kind of hold down these various corners, all these players, they're close together, so you can really hit multiple with those pummels and do some serious damage here. So I like the approach that is being taken on the defense. My only question, though, is what is this execution going to look like? We haven't seen that same level thus far, and AFMT running a near exact mirror comp on that. My faith, it's running low in terms of the practicality that this is actually going to have, especially when this payload begins to move closer to this defensive positioning. You'll see Lazy kind of chilling on the high ground with both of the supports here. They're giving up so much space. I mean, look at this Maywall. Suddenly, the Paladins, they're going to be stuck. They're sitting ducks, wrapping around the back. AFMT catching them off guard. This is the speed, that execution that I'm talking about here. Lazy needs to shut it down, managed to grab one, and isn't putting up their foot off the gas anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, AMFT actually engaged that fight really well, really fast, but Sully managed to find a fantastic ball, which isolated some players, especially the Lucio. The Lucio was forced to go deep to try and live, and it ended up in losing his life. He's used the wall already here. They're not going to have the tool again to be able to cut the enemy team off.
No, they don't have that ability, and now the fight's going to have to be taken on the low ground. Lazy very close to that annihilation already, outpacing Rosa. That's showing the work that this Ramatra has put in so far, but you don't have that May to help set you up. Aang still on that hot streak coming off of Numbani. I mean, we saw what this guy could do on the Tracer. How is the Sojourn proving to be any different?
I mean, yeah, it looks like he's going to dominate the map on Sojourn as well, but that's maybe not too bad from Paladins. Oh, we've got a pause. I really hope this is not long.
It looks like we had some batteries go down.
Oh, the batteries are gone.
Good old batteries.
Good old batteries. So yeah, hopefully they can. I think they are still in this first point, because if we like consider the fact that the Moira is in play for AMFT. If Paladins can extend the fight long enough to actually bring the fact that Moira running into resources into play, then that can definitely win them fights. But also, they managed to get a really nice wall the first fight. Obviously, in the second fight, they wasted the wall a couple of times. But what's to say they won't get another good wall? Especially if they're patient enough to let AMFT make a mistake, make a positioning error before that they use that wall. So they can definitely, wall someone off, get a pick. But also, I really think that the way that they're playing this Ramatra, actually trying to maybe be a little bit more passive, a little bit more reactive, actually maybe bridges the skill gap slightly, because it allows them, because whereas on the Winston comp, it was resulting in them losing their back. Now it's resulting in them in actually be able to, AMFT are going so fast into them that it's actually causing errors, which Paladins can then exploit to maybe kind of smallen the skill gap and actually have a chance.
Exactly, and I 100% agree with that too. I look at what AFMT playing, you look at the one difference in this composition, it's that Moira versus the Baptiste. The Moira, you have to be taking these fights quick, and you have to end them quickly, just because you have a limited amount of healing. Whereas, Lena, you're gonna have the infinite with the Baptiste, that larger burst heal here. So AFMT, that speed has been coming back to bite them. Like you said, it leaves the door open for errors and gets Lazy in the mix to make something happen, but all chaos shall be unleashed in this fight. Several ultimates burned on both sides. The field needs to be contested, though. Ank is the only one that's gotten a final blow so far, and they're going to get a second and potentially a third off the back of it. If any question is left in the air about who is in control of this series, it is Ank.
Yeah, another great fight from Ank. And I mean, actually, in the middle of the fight, all the members of AMFT were frozen, but they just weren't able to follow up with it. As soon as Ank was unfrozen, he popped that ult, and he just managed to find 3, which won the fight. Paladins aren't playing these fights badly, and I definitely think they can win fights if they keep playing like this, playing in this reactive style. I mean, both teams now only have this remarkable. It'll be interesting to see how this fight goes. Apex does have his overclock, but that's probably irrelevant in this remarkable fight, unless they aren't used early.
This is really all you gotta do. I need to see the initiation, but Ank puts Opex down in their place. AFMT get there faster, they do it better. This is where that play style of being reactive is gonna come back to bite them. Lazy still hasn't had the opportunity to use that annihilation, and AFMT, they're rolling through one of the most difficult parts of the map to complete.
Yeah, Paladins will recontest now. Wow. Deep should be able to touch, and that should be able to recontest with the Lazy's ult. And I mean, there's nothing really for AMFT to respond with. They've got the Blizzard, but they've got to really know they've got the Blizzard. They've got to kill the Mei quickly. If the Mei gets the Blizzard up, yeah, the Mei does get the Blizzard up, so that's going to be massive.
Yeah, Mini has to come out with a massive Blizzard to be able to clear this space. And again, Lazy gets frozen up, doesn't get to use the annihilation. So AFMT, they're working through Shambhali's Monastery like it's nothing, just ignoring the fact that this is one of the hardest maps to attack on. 4.5 minutes heading into the third point, and Paladins, they haven't had a full chance to get back on their feet.
Yeah, that second point was rough for Paladins. So as soon as they start to lose these fights, they're struggling. AMFT can hold so high up here and basically make it a one-fight point. But they do still have that remarkable. They've got to use it this fight, otherwise J-Hop will have his beat, and that will just completely negate the ultimate. They also have the Blizzard. I'd like to see them not use both in this fight unless it's absolutely necessary to win.
I got to see Initiation and Annihilation and Ant Matrix and that Blizzard. They're popped at the same time. That gets Rosa out of the battle. If you go ahead and take that, Rosa's like, fine, you want to deal with me? Fine, that's okay. I'll come back with something even better next battle. And Paladins, they held on to that Annihilation again. This time, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that was actually a really good execute from Paladins. They managed to wall and then freeze the enemy Remartre inside the window. And then it was actually a good boot from Deep to actually prevent the escape even further. So that was a really good execute. They still have the Remartre ult, but JL does have his ultimate.
Yeah, this is going to be much better for AFMT here because they love to take these fights quickly, and Ken powering them forward, turning that speed up to 11, courtesy of that Coalescence that gives Ank the space. Charging up these shots is traded out for Jot, and you know, you look how close these spawns are for the defenders. You say that's something, but Annihilation's still not in play. The stall isn't going to be there. Ank is shutting all down. AMFT, they're on the final corner here. Is there going to be a contest?
Paladins have resources to win a recontest fight, but they need to get on quickly, and they're going to have to sacrifice Deep, probably, which will prevent them from using that beat unless they can get on. Deep is on, and he might have to die.
Deep had to get on there to swallow anything that's happening, but Rosa met both him and Opaques. This is just turning out to be disastrous for Paladines. The Annihilation finally in play, but zero support and Annihilation on the other side. Paladines did not stand a chance. 2 minutes, 39 seconds, and a full completion on Shambhali's Monastery. This is what we were talking about. Once AFMT gets going, especially on an unforgiving map as Shambhali, this is going to set that bar, that length that you need to reach your Paladins so incredibly high and even impossible if they keep playing how they've just showed us on their own defense.
Yeah, a few mistakes from Paladins, maybe not being proactive enough, even if they are playing more of a reactive style. They need to be proactive using the ultimate. Take these fights and win fights off the ultimates, which they're not doing, and that means this: they didn't use the ram ult for basically the entire round until the last fight. If they'd have used it earlier, they could have won a fight and then got it again and got it even 2 times to even hold the point. So they've got to be more aggressive there. But if they do play reactive like they have before, they managed to get some good walls from Sully. Sully has been fairly on form with these walls, getting some nice ones. They can definitely get close in this map, but I think it is too much of an ask to get that, to beat the 2-minute 39 time bank. Although with it being escort, if they get there with 0 seconds, they still get a chance. And I always say that in overtime or in Overwatch, you never know. Because if you string together 3 fights, well, then that's half the map completed. So you never know in overtime.
No, really anything can come out, and it does bring out the best in players. AFMT, though, if they can get it to that overtime, there've been those players to come up clutch and look just so strong. So even switching up their composition here on the defense, I'm here for it. I like to see the good old battle cattle in play, and especially up with how well Mini and Ank have been playing. If they get up close, Lazy is not going to be in for a good time here. That Javelin will miss, but going straight in with those pummels, that's the one advantage you're going to have. The wall from Soli not quite getting the value that it needs to. If this payload can keep scooching on forwards, this is what Paladines need to be able to continue to succeed and put themselves forward. AFMT, though, they're struggling to break out of this tiny point, and realistically, there's no need for them to.
Yeah, I mean, if they just keep contesting the cart here, I mean, there's pretty much nothing that either team can do. I mean, Paladins have to do something to break this, but if they go in, it's almost certain death. If they get the point past here, then it's going to have to do something for AMF to hold this.
And Lazy's got that annihilation. Took so long to push this one on through. Lazy finally has it up with the extra healing courtesy of that coalescence. Is it going to get as much done unless that wall comes through big? Rosa had the opportunity, but all of the peel in the world is there to keep the tank alive. Rosa has a trust in their support that is unmatched. AFMT finally break out of that jail. It's like, no, you weren't keeping us in there. We stayed in there because we wanted to. And just like that, 1.5 minutes going off the clock.
Yeah, Paladins managed to force an error to manage to push the car past the corner, but then in the end, they're just not proactive enough. They don't use the Rammel early enough. There was such a window of opportunity there to use the Rammel and probably just win the fight. Throw the immortality and just run in. But they just never do it. They just wait too long.
There's got to be a point where you just make a decision. You got to pull that trigger to actually shoot your shot, because you miss every shot that you don't miss, and this is one that they decide to take, and guess what? It lands dead on right between the eyes. Lazy and the Blizzard working well perfectly. Keep pushing this payload forward. AFMT will probably have another contest here. There's not a lot of resources to work with.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic fight. It's just they're proactive on the Blizzard, and I mean, it just wins them the fight easily.
Yeah.
On Rush, if you're proactive with your ultimates, you can just win these fights off one. And I mean, they managed to take this first point basically off 2 fights, but kind of just 1 win in essence, which is actually pretty good going, because if they ever had to win 2 fights there, they might have been struggling.
Yeah, the fact that they're able to push through that first point really easily is a huge first step for them, but we know that this second objective can be incredibly treacherous, and, you know, they gotta find some opening. I like this flank. You know, Pax is on taking a bit of an alternative angle to add additional pressure, especially that overclock online. The second that's popped out, there's got to be something OPEX can do to push it through, and that's get Ank out of the battle. Beautiful reaction from Deep. Sound Mirror negating any value that Death Blossom was to gain. And Paladins Eternals, they're fighting that momentum. There's suddenly a stride in their step for them to walk this payload through Shambali. And you know what it is? They're initiating. They're taking that first step before AFMT can.
Yeah, very chaotic fight. One thing you might have missed though is there was another fantastic wall from Sully. He just basically prevented AMFT from going aggressive, which they would have done to try and get that Eriscerol up, which they just weren't able to do. And they don't have speed here, so they can't really disengage as fast as they'd like, making the wall probably more powerful. If Sully keeps hitting them, he can definitely win them the round.
This is going to be one last fight to define the second objective, but AFMT, they have all the tools at their disposal here, especially with Ank being on the Sojourn, and this is going to play a big part in them moving forwards, but they don't have the tank, they don't have the toolkit to test. Oh no, the Ice Block Mini was stuck, couldn't move on forwards, and Paladines, they're back, they're in this. Third point is unlocked and 4 minutes to work with. This could be happening.
I mean, Tony, you probably know what I'm going to say, but it was another wall from Sully which started the fight.
Yep.
Just isolated the tank again. It's just every single fight he managed to do it, and I'm not surprised they switched over to Lucio now, because that has been such an issue with them getting walled.
Yeah, I need to see the switch though, because honestly, Joe, you have the speed, you're switching back to the Ramatra. You need to be equivalent in that factor. And the Maywall, though, kind of blocking a lot of this follow-up they're going to get. Still, Lazy frozen up deep as well, and neither are going to be able to escape with their lives. This is a chance for AFMT to get that full reset on, and I think a large part of this, too, switching their composition and getting Ank on a hero that they can carry on once again.
Yeah, Ank has definitely been kind of definitely better on the Sojourn than on the Reaper. I mean, on the Reaper, he's just kind of not been able to even walk up to the enemy without taking significant damage and having to back out. I'm expecting Sully here needs to come up clutch again with a wall. And I mean, in a position here, Rosa, maybe to get walled if Sully manages to find it.
Yeah, Sully has been winning fights about Paladines just off of these walls alone. And there's another great one to block off Rosa. The support is available, though, so the tank will be safe and sound for AFMT. I can't say the same for Lazy. Immortality Field popped out. Lena perfectly timed there, but then with the MR being out, everyone else vulnerable to Ank, who finds a shot onto Lena. You don't want to be jumping into this guy's sightlines at all. Lazy not standing in Tange, neither will Opaques. Ank is back on their game, and this is where I start to feel that level of concern for the attackers.
Yeah, Ank just, I mean, you can't be jumping there, Lena, when they've got the overclock up. They did well initially to avoid it, actually. I thought they were all going to survive, but then that jump came in, maybe to avoid something, but they just ended up getting their head taken off. They do have another fight with Blizzard. If they win this with Blizzard, then they definitely are in a very good position.
Yeah, this is the Blizzard that they need to have, but the sound barriers are in place, chewing through some of the damage, but not enough for Rosa. All 5 players focusing down the tank, and there's nobody in the way to stop this progress. Look how aggressive Paladines are getting. They have to, getting Ank out of the battle. This is suddenly looking winnable. Opaques striking back at full force. 1 fight left for AFMT to be able to defend this objective.
Yeah, it was good. It was very good wall again, which then set up the Blizzard, which was also nice. The problem is Lazy does use his ult proactively, but now he should have probably needed it for this fight, which they're going to lose to Blizzard.
There's absolutely no tools at all. It's only this Blizzard, but it doesn't manage to catch anybody. Opaques and Sully are already taking the fight with AFMT. We're coming out of the spawn. Nobody got caught in it. And Paladines, they're managing to get the completion on Shambali. They marched it through. We didn't believe that they could fish, and they came out here and proved us wrong. They're not a team to be thrown under the mat, and they're really going to have to show that they can continue to push through, gain the same momentum that they just displayed on their attack.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Sully especially, I think, is playing absolutely fantastic on this last map. But also, AMFT are making mistakes. Something which you saw maybe sometimes on the second map, but not really that much. But now they definitely are. For example, in that last fight, they should have just stuck together. They didn't actually need to send 2 players to touch. They could have used their Lucio beat straight on, and they could have just used it, and they could have just won the fight with their Blizzard. But they make a mistake, they send a player on too early, ends up dying, and then they split up, and it just doesn't go too well. I mean, if AMFT make mistakes, it's going to see Paladins back into this series, especially Paladins are playing a lot better than they have done. And I mean, Ank is going to, looks like he's going to be back on the Reaper, which is an interesting choice. I understand why.
Yeah.
Because I do definitely understand why, because I think they're going to hide in this little room again. It was a very good strategy, although maybe not. Looks like they might try and rush out into the spawn camp. But in OT, I mean, if Paladins string 3 fights together, that's not kind of unheard of. They are pretty much halfway done on the map. And then if they dig their heels in on defense, it could be a very tough job for MFT to push all the way.
I just don't know about this Reaper. I really don't. I mean, I see what they're doing here. They want to surprise them from behind. Paladins, they didn't know what's happening. Suddenly, they got to flip their composition around and fixing out that ice block early. Uh-oh. Lazy sees the Mei, finds them vulnerable. Mini has fallen. It was a play for AFMT. They had to take a chance, but that was just not it here. Paladins already took out their big playmaker out of the battle, so they're just playing off of Fumes to buy as much time as humanly possible before coming back, getting that full regroup, even perhaps getting Mini back. They're being forced off of the objective, but met with the Maywall. There's nowhere for them to run away. They're staying alive. Incredible healing being pumped out. Coalescence almost online for Ken, believe it or not, but you can say the same when you look at both Lazy and Rose's ultimate. That support going down, though, even if Ken pulls out the Coalescence here. AFMT, they're split and scattered.
Yeah, now they've lost the point. They're in a terrible position, to be perfectly honest, Tiny. I'm not really sure what they're going to do. There's not really any space to recontest here, apart from through that tiny little door, which is going to give them such a great angle on them. What a wall, but if they manage to sneak to the side.
All right, they took the approach back on the high ground. I like the positioning that they're taking this battle from. They know that they have the advantage here, but Opaque's is sitting in the backline, but they don't have enough damage to deal with. Ink, who's just rolling on through. Rosa with the final blows, but a lot of assists coming in. This is this cohesion. Those rotations were key. AFMT, they were scattered, they were messy, but they managed to regroup and pull it together on this first objective, and they have set themselves a pretty clear win condition if they can just replicate what they did on their own attack.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was done with the wall. The wall looked brilliant, but they managed to maybe sneak to the side. I didn't know where they broke it or whether Sully got screwed by Blizzard. Maybe a little glitch there, or maybe it just didn't reach further enough. But if they'd have got that wall coming through that little window, it definitely probably would have been a fight with the Paladins if they managed to isolate someone. The ults were coming up online. Maybe they could say the beat was used a little too late from deep. But it was a good fight from AMFT when they managed to emerge, because the positioning, the bad positioning was negated by not being pulled off out of the spawn room. But they're going to stick to the Reaper, I think, with Ankle, that there's time to change. Paladins are changing their comp up here, which is an interesting choice. I maybe understand why, because I think they are possibly going to play a spawn camp, which is maybe slightly easier with the Orisa. I would expect them to try and maybe squeeze out 2 fights by playing very, very close.
You gotta go for the spawn camp here, right? And you gotta do your best to just take as many fights as possible. They did make the switch over to the Ramatra. This is what I like to see, but Opaque's, again, picking up that Reaper, which complete and total mirror comps other than that Baptiste versus the Moira, and honestly, I think this has played largely into how these fights have been going. Ken simply just has this larger healing output. Getting these coalescence online has turned the tide of several different engagements that have been taken. And Paladines Eternos, if they don't close this out quickly, they're going to be in a really tricky situation. They're trying to replicate the same play AFMT put out on them just a little bit earlier, but it's not panning out nearly as well. Rosa is incredibly low, has to back around the corner just to be healed up. The extra fire coming in from these Hellfire shotguns. Ink layering in that DPS, charging up that ultimate so quickly. I mean, Rosa already has an ultimate? What? Is that a 30-second ultimate that I just see from the Ramatra here? Rosa stays alive, manages to grab Lana and Deep. Even if they end up losing their lone life, there's no support alive for the defense, and Ink is no problem cleaning up the rest of the team. What in the world did AFMT just do?
I mean, that was a crazy charge on the Ramatra. Although Tiny, if they get a touch here, they're coming up on their own Ramatra, and they have the beat. So, I mean, they have the beat to engage. If they manage to get, I'm not sure they're going to get a touch.
Oh, the wall! Oh. The mate wall is going to be the end of the fight. AFMT have just proven that they have that superior synergy, that game sense that we've seen all throughout. And of course, you can't ignore the star power that Ink has just flown through the series with, whether it's on the Sojourn, came back on the Reaper at the end, the Tracer. I mean, this guy is just simply been putting in the work, like tenfold of what we've seen. I mean, the pop-off performance was only the tip of the iceberg here. There was so much layered behind to why Ink was able to get to that success, and that was because of how well AFMT were able to play as a unit and taking away this series 3-0.
Yeah, AMFT's team play was excellent throughout the map, especially on the dive on the second map. They were just far quicker than Paladins, although Paladins did definitely show some signs of life in the third map. I mean, they were, I'd say that they were actually very good at punishing mistakes from AMFT when they did make them. But also Sully, I'd say, had an absolutely fantastic third map, getting some amazing walls. Although I'd say, I mean, Ankh across the 3 maps was the star, wasn't it? I mean, taking so many important kills, but also on that third map, you know, how important he actually was. I think one underrated thing you might not have seen is that actually right at the end of that third map is that Ankh actually managed to find the Mei and also managed to find the other support that was alive with the enemy Ramatra. And if he had died there, it is very possible that they had managed to stop them right there, and then they would have had the Ramatra for that final fight, and they wouldn't have had to rush the fight. They wouldn't have been able to use the beat against just to go aggressive. So they might well have lost that last match if Ankh hadn't got those 2 important Reaper kills right at the end.
Ink is like the ace that AFMT are just holding up their sleeve. They're getting all of the space taken. Rosa has done an excellent job of just pushing Lazy out of the way. So as a result, Ank could come out, they pull out their secret weapon, and suddenly everybody is dead. AFMT, they roll on through, and it was basically the same thing the entire way through the series. They have a clear plan of how to win, and it has worked for them every single time. This is a team to be afraid of, Fishnaut. This is definitely a team to look out for within the CGL open tier bracket, and you know, as we move forwards to our later weeks of matchups, I would not want to see them on my schedule. And whew, I'm very glad that we got to have this match on broadcast, though, Fishnaut. It's a pleasure to work with you, as well as everyone behind the scenes. Shout out to Headrammer, Hippie, and Salty for running the broadcast, keeping us here looking pretty fancy on top of it. Congratulations, AFMT, on the wins, and we are looking forward to seeing both of you guys continue to play down the line. We got more CGL action coming your way soon, so make sure you follow the CGL1 Twitch channel, and we'll be back later this week with some more Overwatch action.